I'm going to start off with a poem called Journey of the Tydfil, which sort of starts off up in the watershed in the beacons and ends up in the bay. Okay, I think I was quite influenced by in school. Just talking about that earlier with Tim. I wasn't really inspired by an English teacher, but I was inspired by a geography teacher who taught physical geography, geomorphology, and that really caught my imagination. I think somehow. It's influenced that. This poem hasn't influenced a lot of my work, but it's definitely influenced this poem. So, Journey of the Tydfil. It begins in the centre of a mountain, waters breaking. Nobody can say exactly where I come from. Parents, earth and water, and the midwife, air. Soon fire, the sun and everything I feed upon. This place of summits called a watershed. Tears as light stings my eyes. I am just a stream, an ant, a toddler, finding my way down slope, over the edge of my mother, and with my father's constant push of rain. One like many others, till I start to cut teeth, to haul stones, to erode the bed and banks into a gorge. I'm moving quicker, with steeper gradient. My veins pulse, and the thrust of water like a salmon at the point of a journey across the world. Soldiers with backpacks and booted outward bounders fight against my movement, believing it's a challenge. The children who paddle, squeal, splash and fling their stones sound like an echo in my bones. The sun, my teacher, comes and goes, promising destinations and then dips down low. So any season I could be bellyful or parched to a trickle. Sheep sip clear water, heads bowed as in prayer to a lost mother. Or their dead weight, blood mingling with light, soon a veil of flies. Winding and wending around, scarp and spur, I reach a sudden drop, a ledge of resistant rock. The descents of childhood, then youth when greys and blues and browns become a frothing white. Into the devil's punch bowl and a whirling might. Here, secret swimmers come to shed their many skins, and exuberant leapers plunge into a scream and come out laughing. I am joined by others, by brothers, and I vow to their vechan. They emerge on the scene, demanding confluences, driving deep into chasms before we're all lost in a man-made lake. They term it Llyn, but it is reservoir, a store of water we are schooled into. Even in most vivid reflections, we wear our grey uniforms. I straighten, I widen, my girth held by bridges, and above are viaducts which span into another age. Rocky islets, trees and bushes growing from them, bring doubts as I begin to be fixed, my route determined by walls and a weir which parodies the earlier waterfalls. Now salmon struggle upstream as I welcome the many heron whose measured wing beats are like the peace I strive for, and the returning colours of the kingfishers diving like winged rainbows. All this as I am dumping place for trolleys, cans and bottles, like some cesspit of the past, some cholera-infested slum. My parents seem so far away, mountains aloof, quarried or conifered, and clouds that drop their load then move on. They call me Taff, but I much prefer my Welsh name. It's what I call myself, and it sounds like a stone's edge. Sometimes I seem to slumber along, all controlled by sluice and gate. Sometimes I'm far too busy to notice those who gaze like seagulls on the bars, or those who cavort in heat. Too busy with the flow, the downward trek. I have too many shadows. Rail and trail, the once canal, higher up the road obeys the curve. Each shadow more purposeful to traffic and trade. I begin to wonder why I move in such haste, and whether I will be beyond it all, lost. There are so many white weeds hanging in the trees, fluttering like flags of surrender, sometimes falling and filling into tumours on my surface. Just as cormorants are fishing, so I begin to sense the sea. Silt accumulates in my bed, slows me down after years of scraping and scouring. I begin to meander, to waver across the floor. The buildings start to ignore my presence, and there are outpourings, secretive and poisonous, which seep into my limbs. Becoming sluggish, my murky waters a blurred vision in the suburbs. I try to remember stretching terraces where the only vines were children spreading tendrils of imagination. The mud is gathering, the floodplains a resting place for birds on their journey south. Anglers wade out to tempt the fish with threaded flies. I yawn into the city, past a parkland of lovers and solitary office workers. I am broad and straight now, without the energy of gradients. The grand stadium looms as if it were a ship of state that finds no reflection. I have almost forgotten the distant mountains I came from, the fact I am water at all. Avon is a slow way of saying, it seems to suit me better than the rip of river. Already I can feel the saltiness creep into my body, and seagulls' mocking calls hover then swoop all day. At the bay I'm trained and tamed. On calmer days feel stagnant. When there's a restless breeze I begin to wave, and voices of my ancestors come back. Once you were black, all thick with dust like a collier's throat. Once this was flats of mud where waders and dippers would pick for worms. Now I am becalmed, waiting for the gates to open where I will lose my name. It is a different sun, one that threatens to burn up, to leave me dispersed into the channel and after. A roof of slate, facade of glass, the twirling pipes of a carousel, all bring back reminiscences of pebbles carried, reflections borrowed, stirrings under a waterfall. It is night time, and the moon is whole and crying out like a barn owl over moorland. I must go and never know what will become of me. I read that the first time because it's one that nobody's heard here before. Richard Davis is supposed to be making a film of it, so hopefully that'll come off. I'm sort of going down the valley and I'm going back to the school where I taught in Cardiff, and this is really looking at this is a David Attenborough moment, looking at the kids and sort of analysing them as animals, not hopefully not in a nasty way or any sense of that, but I think I've just been watching too many nature programmes on telly basically. Bell swarms. Maybe I just haven't enough to teach you. Possible. Bell swarms. Look at them swarm, those creatures in uniform of black and green. The ringing moves them into action, the time of day, not season. As the day progresses, no matter sun or rain, so their noise increases. Males run, clatter, slap each other and guffaw. Females hug, natter, sometimes scream. Driver ants, they devour everything in their path, even lethal scorpions in corridors. Bees, they gather midday, attracted by the pheromone, the smell of fry wafting. Like the starlings of Rome, they descend and foul the whole place with litter. The last bells are signal, and their cicadas, rattling into daylight, leaving their old bodies behind. Okay. This is the title poem, and this is after describing them as animals. I then turn into an insect, as you will see. So this is really the kind of leaving the place and all this masses of accumulated paper, and I don't know why, but I brought a load of it home and not that I was ever going to use it again. But so shedding paper skin. Day after day, I shed my skin. Paper I bag and bin. The print, the markings. It has served me well as survival and camouflage, or to attract and entertain. Piles and piles of it. I'm wriggling free gradually. I'm loosening its grip. I'm sad to abandon it. Stacked memories of faces, voices. I know it no longer fits. The shining surface where I cannot even write is a shell I don't want for cover, its single eye praying red. Some skin I leave, I fold for others to try and wrap, though it may be buried to rot. The cupboard's a hollow cocoon, corridors dark and subterranean. The door opens into daylight. Now I am ready for flight. Okay, this is going back up the valley now. There's a bit of movement in the first half. Second half is more thematic, really, but this is just travelling back up the valley. And obviously, I used to get on the train and travel up from where I was teaching. Sometimes it was, and when it was dark, it was a bit scary because I'd go to sleep and I'd wake up in Tydfil and think, oh, I've gone to Merthyr and I'm going back down again. Yeah. So, anybody who's been along that line from Cardiff to Merthyr will know some of these sites anyway. One last time. Home from work, one last time, taking the train on the valley line. No more standing in the rain or the shelter with its piss stains. No more dozing through station stops after finding a place for my head to prop. Office workers, labourers in boots and jeans. Shoppers, students, youths acting obscene. Past the weir and out of place vines. The heron pool on the floodplain. The river Tar with plastic bags hanging from the trees in rags. Past the industrial estate, the uni, a sight of the park at Ponty. Past the woods and disused signal box. Workings like discarded, rusted clocks. Contouring mountains, clinging to sides, under precarious rocks held by wire. Towards those green fields, looking across at the place where the colliery once was. Further upwards there's Giant's Bight, a run of hens in mud close by. Distant white arches are memorials to victims of a coal-created battle. The rugby pitches and hang gliders, cartoon graffiti in praise of draw. And on to hoovers, buildings and buildings, like casualties at A&E, always waiting. Strata of the new estates and terraces, the supermarket now a terminus. Home from work, one last time, or the sleepers of the valley line. Okay. My answer to W.H. Auden, except it doesn't rhyme. I wasn't trying to rhyme, honest.
Auden didn't rhyme.
Did it? Oh, okay. I always thought it did. Oh, thank you, Andrew. All right. Yeah. Okay. This is. I'm going back.
Up with the echo.
I'm going back. I'm going back home now. A couple of just a few poems. A few poems about back home, and then one for Andrew. Okay. This is. Yeah. This is really. I always wanted a tree house. But I don't think my wife will let me have a tree house. But the oak is in my garden is absolutely perfect. So this would be my perfect birthday present, which I keep asking for all the time and never get.
It's only in your garden.
A lot of wrapping, I suppose, a tree house, isn't it? Involves a lot of wrapping. Anyway, a birthday wish. So if anybody wants to buy me something, buy me a tree house, okay? I want high-rise living of a different kind. A cushioned penthouse in the oak which dominates our back garden. The doctor clamps my arm and the machine's numbers rise. I want a rope ladder I can lift. I disappear for hours on end to my den, stocked with potassium, spinach, dry apricots, avocado and almonds. If I were a carpenter, if I had a hammer, I'd probably end up in hospital. But let me dream, like Yeats's Lake Isle, of nuthatch neighbours knocking my door, of the squirrels delivering acorns, of the glimpse visits of woodpeckers tapping Morse code on my roof. Blackbirds, my early alarm. I want low pressure living with branches as the beams and leaves, not bills, posted every autumn morning. Okay, here we are.
All of us.
Yes, exactly. Treehouse everywhere. So a couple more. I'll do one more sort of domesticated one, and then I'll do Andrew's poem after that. I'm not sure where it is in the book, but I'll find it. Yeah, this is. Yeah, my wife would disagree with this completely. I can clean too. This is going back home and. Oh, I try to anyway. I can clean too. Yeah. Okay. I hoovered the whole house, mopped the tile floors, dusted and polished surfaces, watered then pruned the plants, shook out rugs and mats, sprayed the shower and sink. I hoovered all my mouth, mopped under my armpits, sprayed my toes for athlete's foot, scrubbed and polished my pate, pruned nails on fingers and feet, washed and shook my few silver hairs. I hoovered the lawn for stray leaves, scrubbed and brushed the patio, washed and sprayed the outdoor chairs, pruned the dangerous berberis, pulled up weeds from cracks, swept up the straggly catkins. I hoovered my brain for wayward thoughts, soaked my imagination in soda crystals, cleared the drains of my subconscious, painted over grout of my memory gaps, polished my reason till it shone, but tidied excuses into a box just in case. This is, I'll have a look. I'll find it now, Andrew, somewhere. Definitely. Yeah, this is thanks to. Where is it now? Yeah, I wrote this in. I got to plug Tina with. Oh, I can't find it.
Is there an index?
I will find it. There's an index somewhere, isn't there?
Right.
Right. East and west. Where the hell is it? I don't know. It's like tuning up, isn't it? I'll start at the end and I'll work my way through. T Newydd, yes, great place to go. And unfortunately, courses there, and a lot of people are not signing up for them, so they're having to be cancelled, which is really bad. But I wrote this in T Newydd. I'm just filling in and waffling until I can find it, basically. And there's a guy. I did a course there for schools with a guy called Peter Sansom. Peter Samson, it's not Sansom, hard to say. Who was a really inspirational teacher of poetry, and I wrote 2 poems as a result of his workshops. He was just doing workshops for the kids. That's a great place to go. And I wrote another poem here about Peter Finch, who's a poet, doing Tai Chi. In the garden in T Newydd. T Newydd in North Wales. It's a writer's place, and you've got courses there. It's really, if you get a chance, go, try and go along. So this is my mate Andrew. Okay. Right. From east or west? He's done. Okay. Will you appear from east or west, high or low pressure, from the Atlantic or continent? Riding on a smoky wind in your woody Guthrie boxcar, all dressed in denim, with Che Guevara hidden? Will you appear, spinning and swivelling, a bar stool tornado of tapes and discs, reeling then unravelling, to hand us your gifts of music from cumulus moods to clear, high days of chattering? Okay. There we go. Thank you.